bathroom or the outhouse while they were melting the wax. If they did, the wax would not harden. Before midday, the table was ready. Together with bollos and ishpasha, Doña Felipa put out slices of corn pudding and cups of cocoa sweetened with chunks of panela. Close to the crucifix, at the center of the table, she had placed 2 glasses filled to the brim, one with water and the other with crabu wine. "Remember to put something for the forgotten soul," she whispered to Lucila, who was busy cleaning the kitchen. Doña Felipa did not dare forget the lonely soul who did not have anyone to pray for her. People usually made a special bollo with all the entrails of the chicken and set it with some ishpasha and lighted candles outside in the yard. At 12 midday, Doña Candila, the old rezadora, and 2 other women arrived. She knelt down reverently and began to recite the prayers that she knew by heart. She prayed so fast that at times it seemed that firecrackers were popping in the house. From time to time, the old lady read clumsily some prayers in Latin from an old book and closed her eyes. As soon as the prayers were over, the ladies sat down to enjoy the food. While everybody sat quietly and sipped their hot ishpasha, Graciela lay in the hammock with a perplexed look on her face. Halfway through the prayers, she had seen many women striding into the room. They were all dressed in black and had long black shawls covering their faces. Graciela noticed their closed high-heeled shoes that peeped out from under their long whirly skirts. As they walked towards the table, their shoes seemed not to touch the floor. They kept turning to one another and appeared to talk. Yet Graciela could not hear a word they uttered. The child had glanced at the 2 women who were responding to the prayers, yet neither they nor her mom appeared to have noticed the strange visitors. These ghostly women surrounded the table and stood next to Doña Candila, who knelt praying with her eyes closed. They bowed before the crucifix and with fingertips that were barely visible under the cuffs of their sleeves, delicately lifted their shawls from their face to smell the food. Graciela had followed diligently every moment of the women. She stretched her neck and strained her eyes, attempting to get a glimpse of their faces. But the women held on to the edge of their shawls. Then, as the litany of the dead concluded, they brought their shawls down and one by one strode out of the room. The last one to leave bowed low before the crucifix and lowered her face close to the glass of water. She let go of the ends of her shawl and walked out past Doña Candila and the other women with her head held high. The praying women were busily eating, and to Graciela it appeared that they had not been bothered by the women dressed in black. When everyone had left the house, Graciela waited patiently for her mom to sit next to her in the hammock. "Mama," she murmured, "the ladies did not like your food. They just gathered around the table and smelled it and walked out." Thinking that her daughter was referring to the praying women, Doña Candila told her that all the ladies had eaten and that Doña Evarista had even commented on how tasty the bollos were. "Not those ladies," exclaimed Graciela. "The ladies who came in while you were praying. The last one only took a few drinks of water." The perplexed mother turned her eyes quickly to the table and stared in awe at the glass of water. The glass was half empty. I also wish to share part of a story that I just wrote. I saw the call for the Commonwealth short story competition. So I said, let me make an attempt. I've never made an attempt, but I did for the fun of it and see what happens. But I'm just going to give you a little rundown of the story because it's a bit long and I'll only share part of it. I chose to focus on the theme of human trafficking, which is a big thing, something that it's out there. It's taboo sometimes. We don't really like to talk about things. We sometimes behave like the ostrich, thinking that everything is fine in Belize, but there are many things happening. So I focused on human trafficking. Just lately we heard about this network, Honduras, Belize, in San Pedro. I remember many years ago, a lady was killed, was murdered by Nabetunich. And Father John McHugh was here with us, God rest his soul. And I remember Father McHugh provided the coffin because the lady was found like 3 days after her body. She was from Honduras, shouldn't have anybody here. So I remember going to the wake. We had a wake, and the lady was buried in Benque, native from Honduras, and that was it. So I focus on this woman. Rosa Barbara. And then talk was that a lady showed up in the highway. I don't know if Miss Luz has seen the lady, but there is an apparition. Taxi drivers like to comment this, that a lady shows up on the highway late at night. And sometimes she asks for a ride and asks to be let off at Nabetunich, the entrance. And then when taxi drivers turn around to look, there is no one in the taxi. So I chose to, I've always liked to merge the supernatural with reality, So I looked at the scenario of human trafficking and chose to present it with the apparition on Chial Road. So I'm just going to read the beginning of the story. The story is called Alien. And there are parts of it, the latter parts only for an adult audience, but not anything gross, but I won't read that part given the audience here. But it presents the reality of the migrant. It had turned unusually quiet. The traffic on the highway had died down. The old man held the rifle gingerly on his lap and waited. He had loaded it minutes before when he heard the muffled whisper of an engine. By the faintness of the sound, it seemed to be a small vehicle coming his way from the direction of the highway that was about 100 meters away. However, it had been swallowed by the distant roaring of the howler monkeys at the banks of the Mopan. He had rested on one side of the heavy metal gate and had stood vigilant, lost in the silhouette of a large and leafy peshoy tree, waiting for the vehicle to pass by. If anything, the security light would signal its approach. A strange heaviness crept in around him. He looked around the compound as far as his eyes could take him. He had always felt protected within the towering cement walls that enclosed the garage where the transport company parks its buses. He looked up. The moon had been dappled with an unusual mist that seemed to rise from the direction of the river. An instant gust of air brought over him a shower of dry leaves from the surrounding gombolimbo trees. Immediately he took up his rifle. He stood up and listened. There was no sign of any approaching vehicle. If it did, it had stopped along the way or may have gone into Nabetunich, the resort on the other side of the highway. As cautiously as a night walker, he got close to the metal bars of the gate and aimed his rifle to anything that would show up at any moment. He peeped in the direction of the dirt road that led to the highway. It was pitch dark. The man held his breath as he paraded his eyes from one side of the road to the next. Just then, a shrieking cry